Okay, good evening. Welcome to the December 11th, 2013 Budget Committee meeting. The first thing we have is on our agenda is the meeting minutes from December 4th, 2013.
Any spares? Is this another side?
You can have that one.
Make a motion to bring the minutes to the floor.
Motion to accept as written.
Oh, I have to wait to make a motion to bring them to the floor, sorry. Not yet. I personally don't follow.
Not yet. Almost.
What'd you say?
Almost have a motion to accept as written. Anybody wants to?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Be Eric and Jane. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So moved. Okay, the next thing we have is the Selectmen's budget. So, and that also includes the police department and the highway department budget, which is also on there. Why don't we...
This is a draft subject to open enrollment.
So that,
There'll be some changes in open enrollment. Health insurance.
And overall, the budget is growing at what kind of a rate at this point in time without the open enrollment? Last year was like 1.7,
A little under 2%.
little under 2%.
do you know which line items would be subject, well, we won't be...
It would be the health, under admin. Town hall health insurance.
Okay, so it'd be line 240, dental insurance, is that...
No, the dental.
Dental's the same, no increase in dental.
Okay, so line 240 is still
Right.
being negotiated. Life and disability, is that already, or is that part of the health insurance? Is that...
No, that's
gonna stay...
not part of the health insurance, right? Life and
That's
disability
correct.
is
That's correct, it's not part of health insurance.
health insurance.
And is there a line item for the disbursements for anybody who gets bought out, or that?
That's all
Yeah,
Is that in the health insurance line, or is it
under admin,
It'd be under admin health insurance.
health insurance.
the same thing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that would just be that one line, then it's still going to be changed. The rest of the lines are final, or?
No, there's a possibility of a few changes, minor changes, but there may be...
It doesn't show it anywhere else. Basically, it was represented all the...
Workers' comp is one, and there'll be a possibility of a minor one in the wages.
Okay. And it's after the contract.
This one, well, that excludes the contract. The contract will be a warrant article from the monies.
Oh, okay.
This change will be excluding the contract.
Okay, so the wages, so that number will change when you add on whatever, or decrease or add whatever the warrant article?
slightly.
So it looks like...
But you said workman's comp may be subject to change?
Workman's comp is subject to change, we don't have the figures yet.
So even with those changes, we're still looking at about a 2% or a little under 2% rise from last year?
That's our final. You have it on the bottom of this
I have a town request for $4,898,370. Does that sound familiar? It's on the bottom of page, last page.
And I would,
No, I was just saying, so that sounds,
Yeah.
and then the actual increase is $4,891, so you're going up about $3,000 out of the whole budget, which would be, yeah, that would be right around between 1.5% and 2%.
What I'd like to do is, because we have department heads here, have go through, we could do the police department budget so that you can stick around all you want after that, or you can leave, and then we'll do Dennis's, and unless you guys want to flip a coin, see who goes first.
Probably Dennis, because he wants to go home.
I'll let,
I'm sorry.
Is it going to snow tomorrow?
I'll let seniority weigh in, John.
Yeah, he's got to get his rest.
It's by the least complicated.
Yeah, Saturday night will be fun.
It's looking that way.
It is, isn't it? They said the 12 inches today.
They said 2 to 12 inches tonight on the news.
2 to 12.
2 to 12.
They said.
So anywhere
It
from
worked real well.
Yeah.
2 to 100 then, might as well. Where are we going, highway? Oh, here we go.
Okay, so
50% chance of 2 to 12.
I listened to
Budget, the overall budget's going up between 1.5% and 2%. Were there any increases for the highway department?
This budget actually went down.
Matter of fact,
If you want to come up, or you just stay right there.
no, there isn't. The highway budget is down approximately $12,000 from last year.
Good.
what's that for? Because,
Well, there's different items, John,
I went through.
that I could deduct. Like one was the sand and the salt item. Last year, we appropriated $39,000. This year, I cut it back to $34,500. Salt has gone down roughly $5 per ton, so I cut that back.
The telephone's out of there.
Telephone is out of there, which was $1,200 to $1,400. That's in the IT line item. I think,
solid waste.
solid waste is down. Last year was 312, this year it's
287.
387, correct.
287.
287, yes, yes. And then all of the rest of the line items are roughly about the same as they were in 13, 14's budget.
Except health insurance, and that went up.
I was going to say health insurance.
We had a 7.9% increase in health insurance.
Everybody's healthy and everything? You've been,
They are so far,
so far,
yes.
Not gonna, don't jinx it.
keeping everybody... How's the recycling working for you and
As far as what, collecting or at the...
collecting and...
The collections are going well. We've seen a drop in the tonnage. I think, and correct me wrong, but I think there's about a 25% on the recycling. We've seen a lot less at the transfer station on Wednesdays and Saturdays since the program has started. So overall, I think it's going well. And even the pay-as-you-throw, people have gotten now accustomed to them. And now that they're recycling more, they seem to be using a lot less bags. So I haven't really had too many complaints, John.
So, now, before you were collecting the cardboard and all that, and you had the bottles in the dumpster, is that still there, or?
That is still there. If people want to bring, say they have some recycling items that they want to bring in, they can bring it still in on Wednesdays and Saturdays. But we're not a single stream now, so when they bring it to the highway garage, they still have to separate it. But we do collect it.
Are there plans to make it single stream?
Right now, Jane, I would say no.
Do you foresee being able to cut back to 1 day a week, being open 1 day a week again?
I would think possibly in the winter, because in the wintertime, all we're collecting is recyclables and wood. That's all we collect. In the summertime, I would say no, because we have all the complements of our dumpsters there, the household burnable, the wood, the demolition, the steel, TVs, tires, and stuff like that. But the wintertime, even Saturdays now, it's very slow.
Okay.
And we're open right now from 9 to 1 on Saturdays. And Wednesdays, well, there anyways. Yeah.
Any feedback from your crew? I noticed the other day, on Tuesday, that the trash company left all the recycle bins out in the travel way of the road, and your trucks were slaloming around the road to try to miss the containers.
That could be a problem, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't snow on trash day.
Yeah, tough to plan that
Well,
one.
I just felt bad because it looks like in most cases, you'd have to go back out again once people bring their containers in, and that just costs you more money and more time.
Right.
So,
But what I would do, okay, in that case, if the roads were okay for that particular day, I'd go back the next morning during normal working hours and straighten up the banks that we neglected to get the night before because of the trash cans.
Denny, are there any major road projects that are be going on this year during this budget cycle?
For 2014,
Yeah.
it will be next year. As a 10-year plan. Mountain View would be one. Spruce Street I did not do this year, which was on the 13-year plan. I had put Pillsbury in there for year 2014, but I'm going to hold off on that because of all the construction that's going to be going on at the prep school for the new athletic field. Academy Street is on to be done for next year. And I had down there Ash Lot, which is up in Lockmere, but Penachek is going to be doing some water digging services and stuff like that and change some lines up there, so I want to hold off on Ash Lot. And I put Ash Drive off of Patricia in the last place. And plus the numerous sidewalks I'd like to get done this year, resurface.
What, the storm drains, and if you didn't spend the money this year, are they?
I did, John, okay.
No problems, or?
But after we checked them, okay, after we pumped them all out, cleaned them all out, I have quite a few that I've got to repair next year.
Yeah, that's why, was there a plan to build some sidewalks this year? Because I see a 66% raise from last year, from 3,000 to 9,000. Was there a major plan or anything?
We didn't get to it. But what I've done is, I've talked to a local contractor, and he said that he would rent us his sidewalk machine, so that's why I was kind of holding off until next year, because we can do 3 times as much with a paver as we can by hand.
Any major equipment investments this cycle?
Possibly a new loader. That would be the only thing. I think we're gonna end up with around 70,000 left in the capital reserve. If we have a warrant article for another 35, that would give us 105. And with the trade in the old one, I think we could get a brand new loader. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? That was easy.
It took me longer to drive down here.
Snow removal for the center of town. You all set with that, or?
With what?
The center of town and the snow storage, that's all set, right?
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks to one of the board members.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna work out great for both of us.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
All set, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That was a big thing with the rent.
They were asking him for a study or something.
Okay. So the next one is Chief here.
Gun on the side, that's maybe not a good
Maybe
idea.
you can go over any changes first.
Sure, yeah. So, we're on page, looks like 4 and 5, so the only change for us on page 4 is the overtime fund. In '07, we were at 50, and then we pared it back a little bit. In '08, I think we went to like 45, and then eventually got down to 35. But with the increase in calls and the types of calls and the demand on court time, it's just hard to toe that line. We tried. Obviously, we're at like 44 this year. Like '06, I think like '06, '07, they were at 50. And, you can't keep it down. So, with the amount of, if they get an accident at the end of the shift or they get a burglary at the end of the shift, I have to pay them overtime. Every time they get called to court, I have to pay them for that. And then we average department-wide about 3,400 hours of vacation time a year that people can take if you add it all up. And so, we try to not have to cover all of it, but if you have someone on midnights take vacation, you got to cover that. So between, emergency call-ins for like burglaries or a robbery, being held over for an accident, something like that, or covering vacation time, we just seem, if you look at a 10-year average, to float between 45 and 50. So that's the only change I have on the first page.
I noticed that one of the things was the wages went up by $50-something thousand. Is that a additional employee, or look at the officer's wages?
I think that's budgeted for merit. Oh, plus we're back to 8. In 2008, we had 8 patrolmen. We're back to 8 patrolmen. Plus, the one thing that we didn't budget for last year, John, was we have one officer deployed to Afghanistan, so he wasn't in the budget last year.
He's returning.
So he's returning, so we're budgeting for him this year. And we had another person off on medical leave. We budgeted for him next year, too. So between going back to our 8th patrolman and one coming back from Afghanistan, that would probably account for the increase.
Number of personnel is has that stayed the same?
Well, we were down 1. 8 gives me 2 officers' days, 2 evenings, and then 1 on the overnight. And for a while there, we were down to 7. So we were running evening shifts with one officer, essentially. So we're back to 8. That's where we were in 2008. And the chief before me had 8. So it seems to be the magic number for us. We're holding with 8 patrolmen. And then I have 1 supervisor coming back from Afghanistan. So that would account for the increase.
Do you think that maybe with the, if we have all of them back, would cut back on any of the overtime, or?
We're gonna try. I mean, that definitely weighed into some of the numbers this year, for sure. You know, and that's gonna be my goal, absolutely. But, you know, we don't, with one of my officers, you know, in a medical thing, we don't know how that's gonna play out this year. And we hope to have my guy back from Afghanistan soon, but, you know, if he, for some reason, takes a month off, that could factor in too. So we just thought 50 was a safe number.
Notice the retirement is up. Do you foresee that stabilizing at all or keeping to increase? I know it's pretty substantial where it went up. Do you see that stabilizing at all or continuing to rise? Just the best guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it would not go up at all, but I don't see any sharp increases. We had that period there where for a couple of years it took a couple of sharp increases, and now I think it's almost leveled off. But I think their intent is to add 1% here and there over the next couple of years. So I don't think huge increases, but some.
Last year, we talked about the officer that became a polygrapher, or is in the process. Did he complete that task? And are we now setting up a system? There was some question about how it would be reimbursed to the town, his services.
Yeah.
Is that all shaken out, or is that still in?
He hasn't done any outside of criminal lately. He's just so busy, he hasn't had any time.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about it, and he knows that that's my expectation. If we start to help out agencies around the state, you know, then it becomes a burden on us that we should be compensated for it. But right now, he's got such a caseload that the only polys he's doing are criminal or employee for us. So.
Do you see any need for any more building improvements? Has everything been taken care of that was a concern?
I did put a little bit more in there. Jane, one of the things I'd like to try to, you know, it's like your house, you chip off a couple projects a year. My 14, I guess, list would be to try to get rid of the torn carpet between the administrative assistant, Lisa, her office, and the patrol office. That carpet, I mean, some of it's the original carpet back to when the building was built, and it's pretty bad. And then the stuff that's in the patrol room needs to come up. So one of my projects for next year is to get that VCT, and then we'll be, you know, basically carpet-free in all the high-traffic areas. So
But have all the safety concerns been addressed that we had?
Yeah. We have, recently we had, thanks to the highway, they put some railings in downstairs for me, and we did skid strips going down the stairs. So each year we chip away at a couple more projects, so that's on my list for next year. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Did you guys do anything as far as the area where the new file server was being kept? As far as
Yeah, you know, I talked to Brad Ober about that before he left, you know, trying to see what the needs were and what the solution was for it, because right now it is a separate room. And so, you know, he said that, you know, there's no requirement for a system in there, but he said the only thing we could do is put something that's dedicated to that room, like some sort of extinguishing system. So we haven't done anything in there yet. He was kind of looking into that when he left. But,
I want to thank you for the report that we got on the cruisers, the mileage. It was very helpful. There was a couple of questions that kind of raised to the forefront. Are we shooting for all the cruisers to be standardized in equipment across the board? Each cruiser will be little mini city, as I call them, within themselves? Because I noticed that some of the equipment is different in some of the cruisers.
Right.
Or is the plan to keep some of them different at this point in time?
No, it's a good question. The older cars don't have the in-car video and the MDTs in them. It's an investment into the car, between the in-car video, the MDT, and all the electronics that go into a frontline car. It can anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 additional into the cockpit of the car. And long felt that, for the cars that typically get used for court and details, if you want to make that investment into them with all the extra money and equipment. So we haven't. It's not that it can't be done, but I have the budget for it. So right now, the frontline cars, they have everything in them. They have radar, they have in-car video, they have the MDT system, which gives them NCIC, CJIS spots, all of that, so they can run plates. We only have that in, 3 frontline cars and then 1 unmarked that they can use. And some of the older cars that are basically get pushed down the fleet and get used for details, if you use those for frontline cars, vehicle maintenance will come up because they can't handle that constant pushing. So it's like, once they hit between 80 and 100,000, we kind of push them down in the fleet. The cars, and they seem to last longer. But, I remember over the years trying to use some of those, 100 to 120,000 mile cars as frontline fleets, and all of a sudden the transmissions are going, where if you were just using it for details, so that's what I worry about with some of the older ones. So that it's a couple reasons why we don't.
And I don't disagree, but I was just thinking, if there's an emergency and the crap hits the fan and you had to use every car out there, there would be some that would be lacking equipment that the other cruisers would have.
Right, yeah. We try to make sure the trunks have all the safety equipment, so they have everything in the trunk they need. They could function to block the road, do things like that, but, there's some of them that just don't have the in-car video systems. Right. But they could certainly all roll out in an emergency. But, the newer cars, what's great about these new ones, we talked about it last year, Ford's now giving us a 6-year warranty, 120,000 mile bumper to bumper. You just can't beat that. They're getting better gas mileage. So next year, if I get another one in the fleet, that's another mainline car with the 6-year bumper to bumper, 120, and better gas mileage. And so then that keeps the gas bill under control. It keeps vehicle maintenance under control. So the oldest car in the fleet right now is 144,000. That's a 6A, and it's got some real rust issues that it probably won't pass inspection within the next year. So that's the next one to come out. And that one, they didn't get new cars in 07, so in 06, that one was a frontline car for like 3 years. So boy, it served its term, and now it's just kind of on its last leg. So
The department's requesting a car this year.
for 14, yeah.
A new car. An Interceptor, frontline car?
Yeah, yep, the 6-cylinder. And that's the other thing is, then my 3 frontline cars will all be 6s, all have the 6-year warranty, 120,000 miles. And those are the 3 cars running, so for me, that's the way to go.
They're coming out of the revolving account?
Yeah.
We'll grab a hearing.
Well, half.
Half.
Like we split
It's in
it.
the budget under
We split it last year.
No. Last year, we took money from the revolving account and used it.
half, right.
Originally, I remember when we first started it, there was a presentation by for somebody from the local government center explained how revolving accounts work. We pushed for it. The intention was to be able to buy cars. It seems like last year, a lot of that went into outfitting cars, too. And then we also bought a car, So how much of what we're making off the detail is going to be, used just for the car?
Yeah, all of it. Last
We
year,
transferred that money back out.
Yeah.
That we outfitted it. That money got transferred back
in.
Right.
The money was used for the in-car video. I mean, it's unfortunate we've got to that point, but now we have to capture these stops, everything we're doing. LGC, all the trainers, the train chiefs are all saying, you gotta have in-car video. We've gone to a video world, and so it's become a priority for law enforcement to get them into the cars that are out there doing these stops day to day. You know, it reduces liability if, God forbid, they get in an accident, going to a call, and someone says, well, the cruiser ran the red light. Well, we're going to see all that. If it got in a pursuit or something like that. So, you know, they were basically saying, you've got to get your cars to have video. So last year we did that. Those cars are all set now. So we don't have that expense this year. So, you know, I believe, it's my belief in the boards that money would go towards the car this year, John.
So the detail money, I don't even know what's in there now.
The detail money can be used for equipment purchases, not
Yeah,
just cars.
I realize,
Yeah.
but a lot of times we had a budget for, line item for equipment, stuff like that. And it was my understanding a lot of that outfitting the cars was coming from equipment, and the cars were coming from that, but seeing this year that we're getting, it's coming out of both areas for different aspects of purchasing cars and doing that. And we know about the $500 public hearing. You were aware of that, right?
Is that the revolving?
The revolving?
Revolving.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get that for this year, because I think we'll probably be purchasing car out of that.
Right.
So we'll get that at some point.
Wasn't the reason for purchases out of the revolving fund for equipment, didn't you have an emergency purchase? Wasn't that part of,
Doesn't have to be an emergency.
but didn't you have to outfit some cars, 1 or 2 or 3 cars, with new camera equipment, and that came out of the revolving
Yes,
fund?
that
Did. Yeah.
Well,
Did you had an issue or
there was
something?
an error made using the revolving fund, because you can't put money into it unless it's from the warrant article.
Right.
So some expenses were at first charged to it with the thought that it would be reimbursed later, but that couldn't be, so those expenses were removed
Right.
and taken from line items.
So what was taken out was vehicle. Last year, we had we put in the budget for a half a vehicle within this line item, and then half taken out of the details, because the details were relatively, they had slowed down a bit from the year before and the year before that. This year, we have $15,000 in the line item for equipment purchases, and the rest will come from the, we estimated the rest will come from the detail fund.
So we're planning just one car this year?
Yeah, that's all.
And, will that be fully outfitted, or?
It would, yeah. Yeah.
And
And it looks like, Bob, your budget went up about 125,000,
Right, like, yeah.
about 125,
Yep.
130,000.
Like I said, and that's bringing back my supervisor from Afghanistan, plus, you know, the increase in overtime.
You're almost hitting the magic $2 million budget mark there, sir. But yeah, that's, so out of the 1,900, most of that was incurred because of retirement, the medical stuff, and the returning of supervisory staff coming back to position, right?
Right. So then, on, I guess, page 5, the only other 2 increases were my building improvements, like I upped it by $500 from 15 to try and do the floors, get the carpet out of there. And then I upped clothing by 15, just because I got a couple of bulletproof vests I got to replace, and those are about $800 apiece. Other than that, the rest of the operating budget stayed the same.
Good, thank you, sir.
Do you think the health insurance boost, 45,000 is part of the staffing? You would assume, well, actually, police officers wouldn't be a normal person's
Yeah, like-
health insurance.
The officer that was in Afghanistan, while he's away, his insurance comes through the military, so when he comes back, the family plan comes back with him.
And then my other question was, you had a lot of work you were doing with IT. Are there more improvements in the IT department, and would that be part of the town
It's the
IT department?
It is the
now?
IT, and yes, there's a considerable amount of work left to be done there, and we have that under IT. If you prefer that tonight, that would be fine, but Tim offered to come next week, because
Yeah, I think we'll probably have some more questions.
Not-
and
not-
Numbers
not
on those.
so the answer to that question, it is under IT.
Yeah, just on that, there was some, originally we thought we were going to be moving out of there, we all know that, so we thought some of the wiring, we didn't replace it, so now a lot of the cabling that connects all the computer systems is just old. The Cat5 and the wires that run our network are old, so, now that we're staying there for a while, Tim really feels, and I do too, that we're going to have to replace some of the wiring there, the cable wiring, not electrical wiring. So, I think that's just your question that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, the computer's 5 years is old.
Yeah.
Suddenly it'd be Cat 6.
Well, the whole computer thing in law enforcement kind of evolved, so, back in the day, just dispatch had one, that was it. And then we added a couple, then a couple more, and now patrol need them, and so you got wires on top of wires and nothing's marked, and, for the IT guy who has to go in there and sort it all out, it just, we're trying to get organized there.
And how long does the officer's contract go? When
3 years.
3-year contract.
so we have 3 more years to not worry?
We're negotiating now, and it will become effective July 2014, and then July 2017.
So that would be amended also.
You'll have a warrant
That would
article
be-
for the money
Okay.
portion of it in March, yes. We should be ending up at the end of January on that.
Is there a public hearing? That would be before the public hearing for the warrant articles, right? They'll have to be in when we do a public hearing for the warrant articles, which is...
The money ones, you should have those in for your public hearing, yes.
No, with the contract for the police, because that's money, does that have to be in?
That's warrant article. The money warrant articles for the police, yes.
So that will have to be in sometime in February, right?
Yes.
Joyce is good at figuring out the dates. so-
We told them January 31st, so that's the drop dead date is January 31st, that we had to have it in so that we get money articles written.
Are those negotiations progressing well?
I think so,
Yeah, we've had our 3rd meeting today,
yeah.
another one next Wednesday.
And on a personal note, Chief, if you would pass on our great respect to Lieutenant Paulus, who's retiring at the end of the year after close to 30 years,
Yeah.
29 years of service. Good man, very good man.
Say the least, yeah.
With that, I understand that the command structure is going to change a little bit, and I know that's still a work in progress, so we won't bug you at this point in time for that. But if you convey to him our greatest thanks, that would be appreciated.
I will. We're going to have a retirement party for him February 1st at Lockmere. It'll be open to the public. There might be a little roast, but it'll be good. He's a good guy. He's got a heart of gold.
Might be.
Might be. And he's a hard worker. Big shoes to fill.
One of the things Wayne said, you were saying that it went up by a certain percentage of budget, but a lot of the stuff that you previously, last year's budget had in it, actually got taken out, went to IT. So if we were to take that IT stuff and put it back into the budget, we'd be looking at the true amount of an increase in the budget. And I think that's, I haven't even looked at...
Sizable increase too, because they had to get a whole new computer system, I believe.
Yeah, we did that last year, but it looks like well, I'll have to go over it with Tim, because he can probably explain all this better. But it looks like we have a pretty good sizable IT budget, and for equipment too, and is,
Right, so what was...
I don't know what we can
The IT
do, but
is-
it seems to be, every year, we're having a very sizable IT budget in the last, like, 4 years, 5 years. And
Well, you know, you can blame that completely on the selectmen because the police department was like the ugly stepchild. We did not include them when we went to network managers and had town hall assessed. We did not include them. And they just muddled along and said, we're okay. And, you know, they didn't
Self-contained.
have
Put a Band-Aid
the
on it.
benefit of the experts that we had hired for town hall, and they were Band-Aiding things. And it's the selectmen's fault. We should have brought them in when we did town hall, and, you know,
'cause
the
we're-
whole package, so now we're paying the price.
I think at this
Getting
point in
them up
time,
to
it be-
that And fixing all the Band-Aids.
At this point in time, too, it becomes a safety issue, because the environment has changed considerably out on the streets. And I think for the safety of the police officers, it's been important to update some of the features that are available, like the in-car technology.
One of the
We
things
also
we
have
need
to
to do
remember
is,
the
if we're going to be
police department was
replacing all this every year, we should have a schedule and a plan.
That's
for-
getting created.
That is...
So that, okay, the server is this old.
Right.
How much is it going to cost each year? Should we be putting money aside each year in capital fund?
We'll have that. The problem right now is almost everything, well, a good, more than 50% of the things at PD were put together by Band-Aids, and so things needed to be replaced. And you can't get onto a schedule for that, like we did at Town Hall a couple of years ago. There were very, very, very old machines here, and Tim developed a plan and bought a couple of machines each time at the end of the year, and now we have most of them. There's one, I think, left to be replaced, or two, that, and now he'll have it on a schedule to do it
Yes,
each
we'll know
year.
what year.
Right. But he
We're
can't
going to
do
be
that.
replacing all these again, so we're not,
Right.
it seems like we're,
He has a lot of mapping to do.
Right. He's not at that point yet at the PD because there's so much to do to replace, to get them up and running and consistent, and have one department at the PD work with the other department with technology, having it all work together. Once that happens, then he, in conjunction with that, he's working on a 3, 4, 5-year plan.
And it becomes more
Placement.
complicated because the police department then has to interface with other departments, with the state, and bring the equipment to a level that they can interact, because I believe, Chief, you are also the emergency management director, which puts it more on a state and federal level, where the computers have to be able to tie into some of those systems. And so it became complicated really quickly in our society, and we didn't quite catch up yet.
And the software is quite pricey. The software up there in the PD is quite pricey. You think assessing software is pricey? This is pricey. So,
anybody else?
Parking enforcement was just way down this year. Are we having issues with people parking downtown still, or?
Not as much. We do have a plan next year. We'll have, one of our officers is at school right now, so he's going to be coming back to me in March and, be through the summer, and then we're still looking for a second person for next year.
What happened with the 2 part-time people that you hired last year? It appeared that they weren't on the job too long. I saw mostly explorers, and I've continued to see mostly explorers working as the parking enforcement, and they don't get paid. So where did this money go?
We didn't use all of it. One of the women decided it wasn't for her, and so we were down to 1 for a while, and then that got offset with another one who came up through the ranks of an explorer and then started doing parking part-time for us. And so he's going to come back in March. You'll actually see him out there in January, too. And he does a great job, but we also will have a second spot in the summertime, and I budgeted...
But during that time, part of that time, he was installing cameras in cars, wasn't he, as opposed to doing parking enforcement?
I know that he did help IT with some of that stuff, because that's his background, because they were trying to get him in the cars quickly, but he's one of these guys that he does a lot on his own for us, donates a lot of time to us, so he's just good to have around. He's just a huge help to the PD, and I met with him last week, and he said he'd be here for his January vacation, and then in March, right through the summertime. But during the peak of the summer, we need 2 people and 2 part-time people. And we did advertise, but one of the guys accepted, then refused, so we'll probably re-advertise in the spring again.
Is the town hall and the police department all on the same janitorial contract, or same people, or?
Yes.
Oh, that jumped up pretty good, too. Is there a reason why is that?
Highway, not highway, the town hall, the PD, and
Senior Center.
they do the senior center for free.
Riverfront Park uses a different purveyor.
It used to be the riverfront, but they separated.
That went up pretty good, too. We can go over that with the selectmen's budget. You guys probably know more information on that.
What's that?
We bid it out. and
You bid it out?
That was the contract price for years.
Right.
We'd hired an individual who worked for the highway department during the summers and did the cleaning. But he just didn't have enough time. There was more need for cleaning than he had time allotted for. And then we bid it out, and we had
one
6 or
person.
7 different companies bid on it.
Oh, this year bid it out?
It was last year.
Last year, the year before that,
Fall
we
of 2012. And then we hired them, and they worked through 2013.
So anybody knows we might come up with something as we go along, can drop you a note.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, thanks for coming down.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, sir.
Dennis getting some IT stuff put in his, with GPS and all that trucks, so you can keep track of the snowplows and...
No, news to us. Sounds that large of an area that we can't keep track of each other.
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts, that's where
Central Dispatch.
Is Central Dispatch still at Dunkin' Donuts, Dennis?
The majority of the time.
Just checking, I wanted to make sure that hadn't changed location.
For both of us.
Well, I knew that for you, but...
Thank you. Have a quiet evening, be safe.
Thank you.
Not bad, Pat.
half of it gone.
The easy hand.
Depends on how you look at it.
All the questions here, gathering of
Now,
information.
you said that Tim would be available next week to talk about IT and some of those items, and he would be able to give us better information.
If you choose to, we have his IT, but if you feel a little bit better about him answering questions on that, that's fine.
It'd be much more interesting.
Yeah, it'd be best to have, because I don't think Tim's been before us, the budget committee, once this year.
He's been downstairs if we needed him.
Not too often he's been,
He's been in the building, but not up here.
for the last 4 months. Volleyball or something on Wednesday nights. So it'd be nice to have him here so we can...
Next week.
You know, he can go over some of the things, and some of the finances, the cans, the debt.
I do have a question, though. His salary is still split between finance and IT,
It's two separate positions.
two separate positions. And so his salary is actually a total of those two positions. Does that encompass overtime, or is overtime on top of the regular base salary?
Salaried positions.
Don't
It's a
get
salary
overtime.
position, okay, that's what I
And they're
asked.
two separate salaried positions. If you notice under IT,
Right.
there's one under IT, and finance, there's one under finance.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but I did not know if it was salaried or whether, because he does a
They're
lot
both
of work on top of the normal 40 hours.
That's just Tim.
He spends a lot more than 40.
Right, that's what I'm saying, on top of that. So his salary is just, he's salaried, and it's just those two combined for the year. Okay.
He has a separate job description for IT.
And he has to bill, or is it billed separately too, whatever he's doing IT, that goes under the IT budget, and when he's doing finance, then he reports that under the finance
That's correct.
section of it. So his salary reduces in both those sections as work is completed
Right.
within that department. Okay, good.
So that's two separate timesheets.
Two separate timesheets, okay.
Is technology as a department, a new department, how long has that department been?
This year.
This year.
What justified a $4,000 increase in the IT salary?
There wasn't an increase in the salary, it was the salary that was created.
Right. When it was
For the
created,
position.
when it was created, 14,000 wasn't a complete year.
Yep.
It's based on a weekly.
Right, 18.2 is a complete year. So there's no salary increase.
I was in the understanding that it was going to be that to begin with till he got everything mapped, and then it would probably cost less. So now we're actually going
No,
up
the rate is per week.
at this time. I'll have to
Right.
go back to the minutes, but it was my understanding that he was going to start out at that because there's so much work to get it back together and you had to map it. And then after that, it would be cutting back.
No. No, when we had that conversation, and I think I had it, that, we came up with a weekly rate, and we looked at other IT directors in other communities. And the rate we came up with is much lower than most.
Much lower.
He is performing,
Well-
right now, more work. Quite frankly, if we hired someone to come in and paid them at an hourly rate, we'd be paying more than we're paying him. And the idea was that eventually, he would be doing less work, and his salary would be more in line with the...
How do we know that that's the right rate?
Because we have a wage and salary, but we
Can we get
compare it
some
to other...
copies of that, for that?
It's right over there.
I think we got
You
them.
ever
To
get
justify.
I leave it out on that table, you can look
Ever
at
get
it
the job
anytime.
description too on that? We're gonna get the job description.
We did get job description, yeah, I can
John's
get
got
that.
the job description, absolutely.
Okay, you have to remember, the job description includes more than just computers, it's all IT, the telephones, everything.
Didn't we add to that last year when Tim
We
had...
didn't add to it, we created it last year, the whole package.
Yeah, because we added things like the ordering of supplies, the responsibility of the
All of them.
photocopies, anything that came under that umbrella.
And you provided
So
us
he
with the
also-
salary ranges
Right.
and the recommended salaries. You provided all that to us when
Right,
you introduced it to us.
right. And like I said, I leave, it's an old wage and salary book, but it's over there, and you'll see even with the old one, it's right, it's very...
Exactly.
So are both positions in the merit pool system, or is just the one? The finance director in the merit pool, or is both, or is that at this point in time, a question is still a question?
The question,
I didn't hear the question.
both the finance and the IT in the merit pool.
Good question.
That's the question.
Okay.
Right.
Is the
Something
plan...
to think about.
The understanding, well, that's, I guess that's confidential.
And I don't want, I just raised the point because there's two separate positions. And if there's a merit pool for
Anybody needs a copy?
the town hall employees, would that be part
It'd be different if it were two separate people.
of, right, so,
Is there a plan to make that two separate people someday? Like, once it all is up and running?
It's very possible to do that. Is there a plan to do that? It's very possible. That's why we've created a separate job description, a separate, so that if in fact Tim no longer was in that position, somebody could walk into that position knowing what it entailed and what was expected of them. That's why there's a separate job description, yes. That was worked into the plan.
And the concern with that would be, since it's salary, I guess you could do, is at an $18,000 level for an IT person, that would be a part-time job for an IT person, but I guess you could have a part-time job salary.
With contract.
Yeah. And the
That's
reason
low.
I ask is, say, for instance, Tim moves on, Lehman Brothers calls him and he takes a job. Now would have to find two different people, and then you say to yourself, how do you find an IT guy for
I was
$18,000?
gonna say, in my opinion, I don't think you'd find someone to do it.
You couldn't.
Yeah, that's,
On the cheap, in my opinion.
Considering what just the management end of it was, consulting end of it was, that we were paying per hour. Judging from that, I think we've got the better end of the deal by far.
If you judge it by the Jeep that's parked out day in and day out and all hours on weekends, I think it's a good deal.
Right, and it probably will even out once we get over this hump. Right now.
Once the equipment
We're
is
getting a better
consistent.
deal.
What is the, because, 4 or 5 months ago, we said, all we gotta do is map it out now, and we got this, but it's always like, well, we're gonna get over the hump later, we'll keep pushing it down the road.
Well, I think, John,
How are we-
I think what's happened is, like anything, when you go into something, you're not really knowing what to expect, and when you get in there, it's worse than what you expected, and so that there's a lot more work that needs to be done, and some of which the software wasn't connected to all of the terminals, and it was, not everybody was connected to spots, and the offices need that to function, so it was a lot worse than what anticipated, so when you get in there and start to work on something, then something else happens, like anything in computers. I try to go fix something on my computer and something else happens and I could be there for hours. And that's typically what has happened. And it's old equipment, and some of it's broken down completely, some of it, the server, last year we lost the server, and that was...
And we got a new server
Right, we got the new server
last year,
Right.
and it's still not straightened out.
We got that part straightened out. Now we have to he's having to do something with the ask him next week, he's
Yeah.
doing terminal server, which is something different, and then
I understand, but...
stations.
But how much of this technology is absolutely necessary for a town of our size? Because we've got a lot of money that we've invested into computers over the last 5 years.
Well, when
And
you have
when is it going to end? What are we striving for to get? Do we have a target of what we want to have, or we just keep, well, it would be
I
nice
think
to add
what's
this and nice to add that?
I think knowing Tim the way that I've known him for the last 5 years, he's not going to spend one dime more than what he has to spend. Trust me on that one. I've seen it. And when you get a phone call from the officers and they can't use the equipment that are supposed to be, or when you get something, for instance, a fax or the printer that prints over the warrants that's not working, how much of a time frame do you want to sit and wait to go and fix that? You know, I mean, what do you constitute as necessity? I would say that that would be a necessity, because if there's warrants to be served that day, they need to be served that day, not tomorrow when we fix the printer.
Well, you know, I look at things like that, and then I look, 5, 7 years ago, or even less than that, we had a fax machine. If they want to get fax, they fax something, comes right out to it. Are we getting so involved in this technology
Well, I think
that's getting so
technology has gotten
complicated?
so involved. I don't think the town of Tilton has gotten involved in it. I think technology has evolved, and we have to keep up with it. And I think that's what's happening. But if you
Do we
go-
have to go as far as we're going? That's my key thing.
Well, in town
And
hall,
are we
we don't.
becoming, you know...
In town hall, we don't. I mean, for example, the copier downstairs, we bought it used.
Right.
And it's not state-of-the-art, it's not even color.
Right.
And then we have these inexpensive copiers we have up here, and this one downstairs for, you know, for everyday use. But the big jobs go downstairs to the big copier. Unfortunately, we can't go into detail of the needs of the PD because of confidentiality. But their needs are far different than town hall. You know, the detective needs are different from the patrolman's needs.
Well,
They have to
I
be
think you just
connected
can't
to
have
Delaware
like an
County.
open check saying, well, it's confidential, why we have to spend this
Well, I
money.
don't
Well,
So,
it's
you know,
it's
we-
confidential
it's-
to you, but not to the selectmen.
I think that you're looking at equipment that is very antiquated up there.
But we've just replaced this last
Not
year.
all of it. Not all of it, John. We touched on it, and Tim will tell you we touched on it.
Well,
And
probably
the-
best to talk
The
to
rest-
Tim.
Right, and the rest
about
of
it.
this year, next year, it will be, you know, it will be probably fully completed, but for the most part. But I don't think it's a blank check by any means, and we're watching that very closely, and I know Tim is watching that very closely.
Well, I know Tim will get a great deal on the things that he buys, but do we really need to invest this much money? You know, have you looked into what other communities are using? Is this how much? Because I checked
What he's
online at
doing-
some of the other towns' budgets that are bigger than us, and they're not spending as much as we are. And so I'll take it up with Tim.
That's not fair. How old was their systems to begin with? How well have they been updated all along? You know, once we get the police station back on track, then what we spend every year, you'll have a whole program of what gets replaced when, and that your costs will come down a little bit. But right now, everything had to be taken care of.
But I can go through stacks of town reports, and I can see a lot of money being spent on this stuff. And every year, I've heard, that we have to buy this because that's antiquated. Well, we buy this, and then every year, the same thing. It's not safe, it's antiquated, we need to update this, we need to update that. And it's, you know, there's
I
got to
think
be...
that's the technology field, though. I think that's true in any...
But what do we need? What do we really need to serve our purposes for a town of this size and what we have?
What you
And that's-
see and hear is what we really need. I don't think that there's any more, I don't think there's bells and whistles and prizes in here. I think what you see is here, and...
So this will go
what-
down
what-
after that?
Well, there's some things that he moves around to different, he may put a new computer into the deputy's office and take that one out, and then it will go here. You know, it doesn't,
Well, you know, for instance, like
it doesn't just go out and
one year-
buy it because it needs to be bought. That's ludicrous.
You know, we go 1 year, well, we need to have all the cars equipped with laptops. So we do that. And then the next year, we need tablets for them. And then a year later, we need laptops again because the tablets aren't good. So we keep, you know, is there a plan? What are we really striving for? Do we need police cars with 4 cameras in it, or do we need them, well, 1 or 2? So, you know, and I don't want to use the term, but are we becoming techno junkies for the town hall and the police department? That's, you know, and I want to make sure that we're not just, we're doing what we need and not saying, this would be great to have all this extra technology. Look at how great it is, look at how good it does, and spending all this money, because it's going to cost each year to replace this, or if it doesn't work or breaks down, too.
I think my question could also sum up what a lot of what we're just talking about right now is information technology was a new department that was created. So what we're looking at is, for next year's budget, $85,000, $84,007. And it has as authorized budget for last year of $107,000, but it actually wasn't in the budget for last year.
It was in different places.
Right, and like I could see from administration, it went from technology expenses of $22,000, and now this year it's zero.
Right.
Where does the other 70-something, 80-something thousand come from? Because I don't see any other department.
If you look at PD,
Let's see.
the technology, let me see what page it's on.
Page 4, the second line up, 16,000.
I think it's 16. Yeah, second line up, page 4.
Well, equipment maintenance, repair, oh, tech, all right. So that's,
You have over $10,000
38.
worth of
Highway-
telephone
Highway
that's
is
in this
1,200,
All the telephone line items.
all the telephone.
okay.
Copiers, fax
So-
Because
machines.
that's why my question was, is this a new department? Is this 85,000 on top? But
No.
In
No,
reality,
no,
it's
no, it's
20 here, 5 here to 6
It's the
here.
town clerk, if you look at the town hall, the town clerk, tax collector, there's money out of their supplies that comes out, that goes into IT, because that's computer stuff.
When we created it, shortly after it was created, I believe you gave everyone a list
Of where we were transferring it out
of
of.
money that was transferred out and put into this budget.
Right.
So,
The biggest change is, and I think that...
What in this
think it
part
would
do you
behoove
see
you-
out of line?
What's that?
I'm asking John what he sees as out of line in this $107,000.
Well,
And next year, the
I don't have a-
84,000.
Right,
We
the
have
only thing is I don't
30,000
have an
alone,
understanding of where we're really headed with this, and, I see hardware.
Well, if you look...
What are we spending it on? Communications
That's telephone.
services, what are services?
Data lines.
Kinda-
You had a breakdown of this
Yeah.
months
Right.
ago.
You have data lines.
Yeah, for
that
last
you've
year,
got-
but for next year. I didn't get one for next year coming up. We're working on the 2014 budget. And I like to start at zero and see what we're going to be spending it on next year, not,
But that would give you
The
an
breakdown what we
idea
had
of
last
what
year.
items are in here. You can,
to start at zero and say what we're going to spend, instead of saying, okay, last year we spent $10,000 on phone equipment, so we're going to
You want it more
transfer that over.
itemized.
Yeah, what our plan is.
He has a draft technology replacement plan, so I'll just have him bring that
Okay.
next year. He
Just
has-
like the public works with their trucks and
he has
the
it
sidewalks.
Up to 2018. So it'll say, laptop, town hall, the server, the cost, and to replace it in 2018 is $2,500. That's going to be replaced. He has the town admin, 2013, and then the finance department would be 2016 for computer. The town clerk is 2014. Welfare is one in
Yeah, if you could just,
2014.
yeah,
So
could
I
get
think
a
that's what
copy
you're
of the
looking
plan,
for.
what we're,
Right.
see where we're going with this.
In your budget this year, for the IT budget, $30,820 of that is software. Just software.
18.
And most of that's for the PDI.
Well, no, because you have Avatar, Munismart, the assessing, the tax collector, but you have the TriTech, the PD application software, which is $6,000. And another one for the PD would be the criminal service software for the second server, which is $4,400.
I guess what I'm looking at is, because I know this is it's a fairly new department. It's really new, and there's still some feeling out that goes on with that. Somewhere down the road, if there could be a 5-year plan, if we're going to keep IT, if IT is going to become part of the town, and I know Tim's overwhelmed at this point in time, but some kind of 5-year plan, whether it be, I mean, we've got computers replaced, but there'll come a time when we change the telephone system, we'll change whatever.
Right.
So if he could look at creating a 5-year plan that we could take a look at for expenses, I think that would be better off. For me anyways, when I'm sitting down to talk with, the second piece that I would like to look at is the breakdown of hours that are going into each one of the departments that he's putting in. And then I'd have a better sense on how much that money is how it's being spent. Because if he's spending, let's say and if it was at $18,000 for the IT, and if he's spending 800 hours, that's a pretty cheap deal for what we're getting for that service. So we really don't have that breakdown of how many hours he's actually having to put in. For anyone that's ever called an emergency service for their computer, that's cheap. Okay, so if he could just kind of take a look at the hours that he's putting into each one of those positions, and I think, Joyce, you may even have it with his timesheets of the hours that he's putting in separate. So if you could take a look at that, and somewhere down the road, again, if IT is going to become a part of the town hall, we should really put it on the same 5-year plan as we do with the highway department and with the other parts of the organization, so that we know what's coming up on the budget committee the next year. And I think that may solve some of the issues.
I think that's what
IT has
Pat said.
always been a
You've
part
got
of the
that.
town. We just put it in its own department,
Right.
and so that you
Those
can
are
see
just the
it
computer
clearly.
part, though. If IT is also photocopiers, fax machines, telephone
Yes,
systems.
that's why I was looking for, a detail of where all this
It's everything,
comes
yeah.
from.
Yeah.
He's got it,
And that's what I'm just taking a look at, and the replacement plan is good, but if we know ahead of time what's going to happen, then the question around the budget is, okay, so that's where that's coming from. And how much time it's going to take that person to start the replacement process.
I can just add one little piece, because I get a lot of the benefit from them, is that we have a tremendous amount of loss in productivity when the copy machine doesn't work or your laptop isn't working, and just being able to all the departments and all the employees to be more productive. That, I mean, I don't know how you put a dollar figure on that. It's phenomenal. We are more productive.
I worked here for about 10 years, and we had an outside firm that would come in. If you had a problem, you let the town administrator know to contact the company. And I can't tell you how many times either the town clerk would be down, one of us would be down, our computer wasn't working, because they were old units and they constantly needed care. And there was a mishmash of software and stuff, some that had to be changed over because it wouldn't be compatible with somebody else's machine. It was just a mess. But it cost us to have that poor service, and what we're getting now when you come into the town hall, 99 and 9/10% of the time, if someone is calling because they have an issue, the issue isn't with their machine, it's with the person trying to use the machine. And what a difference. People are more productive, they're not upset because they're sitting there, because, face it, in the town hall, as in a lot of offices, if you don't have your computer, there's very little you can do, and it's a very busy town hall.
particularly when they can't do the registrations.
And I was just going to say motor vehicles and you can't not have computers in a town,
Right.
any town, regardless of the size. You may have to have more in a
I know
big
we all
town.
know that the equipment and having it operating is important. I'm just looking at the money so that and that's what we need to focus on here is numbers, because all these are going to come out of the taxpayer's pocket. So whatever numbers we come up here, we're going to go and reach into everybody's pocket and pull it out. But do we need all these things, and can we get by? So, Tim's a great guy, having it running is Perfect.
Well, I guess the
Right.
only thing I would add.
Where
to
can
that-
we save money on this budget so that taxpayers are getting as much as they can for
But
a reasonable amount?
I'm sitting on a board that we make final judgments all the time. And part of what we're making judgments on, we're taxpayers too, and I don't want to have to pay a nickel more than I absolutely have to. But there's sometimes that you do have to have things done because they're necessary, either for the smooth running of the community or for safety reasons.
Okay, do we have any more questions on any of the other stuff? I want to keep moving on, it's getting into the,
Right,
I don't want to get a personal thing and all that, but let's work on the numbers and make sure this is what we can work with.
But John, I would just make one last comment although it's great to look at the numbers, I look at this place as a business. The town is a business, and to be productive, you have to make your clients or your patrons happy. And part of that is with that computer system. I was never more happier than I'll give personal experience when I opened up my mail and found my car registration form had been mailed to me, where I don't have to do 2 checks anymore. I only have to do 1 check. I can put it in the mail. I can put a
Okay,
self-addressed
I'm going to have to interrupt because we got to stay on topic on the numbers, what we're spending. And I apologize, but I need to keep, I know you're happy with your registration and that, but we need to work on these numbers and not just dwell on one thing. Everybody's happy with
And I
it.
see that as your agenda, and my agenda
We
is
got a
that's
lot.
part of the numbers, that I'm saying that if we're looking at the numbers, part of that is also that the numbers create the business. And if we can't accept the fact that this is a business, it doesn't matter how many numbers you put together, the business will fail.
We're not a business. We don't make money.
We're taxing people, and what we're doing is we're going over all of these numbers to make sure that what we're getting is of good value and seeing if we're spending it wisely.
And the numbers that we recommend,
So I'm just going to end it at that. Okay, we'll go.
but that's not what was being said before, John, with you, with the whole system.
We're gonna
We're
move
making
on.
the recommendation we only make that recommendation to the town. The town voters actually decide whether or not we've done the job that we're supposed to do.
I have a question. On page 2,
What department are we in?
Town Hall, sorry. Last year, there was a budget for $25,000 for Town Hall maintenance and repairs. You moved $13,500. I'm assuming that went to IT,
Yes.
but yet we're still back up to $25,000 in this
We didn't
budget.
do all that we planned to do on the town hall maintenance that we wanted to do.
Is that like the brick problem?
The brick problem,
That doesn't come under general building expense?
13,500 out of maintenance and repairs, what part of that was IT?
None of it.
I'll just ask.
Any of it was.
I don't know.
Okay.
The projects we had planned, they went to the, aside from our regular building maintenance for town hall, we had proposed to put a window, a security window in the town clerk tax collector's office. We were proposing to make this meeting space on the stage, but that was going to be a separate warrant article. Carpeting, we had put in for carpeting in the town hall. So we try and do, and also the masonry repairs on the building.
We got moisture problems up here already.
So general building expense and maintenance are 2 separate?
Right.
Okay.
Weren't there roof repairs that had to be made too?
Oh, the general building expense, that was 16 Business Park Drive. Yep. We sold the building.
Wood floor.
No longer have it.
Go quick.
What's that? Which line was that? Okay,
480.
480.
480, and that was the business part.
I have a question about Selectman's assistant. When I first saw that line item, I was looking for how many people are the assistants to the selectmen.
It's one person, and that person's been here for 27 years.
But it went on websites, and what I found is that's actually, is her job title is administrative assistant or selectman's assistant?
Administrative assistant.
How do we justify $70,000, because the Department of Labor statistics, an administrative assistant is between $25,000 and $35,000. To get to the level of $50,000, you would get to an executive assistant, and to get to $70,000, you would get to a top Wall Street executive assistant.
Those are businesses, we're not a business, you just said that. I think that makes it different.
What?
Those are business, those are titles within businesses. I think the administrative assistant's position in the town is a little bit different in terms of what she's responsible for. You might want to address that part.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. How do we justify $70,000?
Are you quoting when you're quoting the different positions, those are entry positions? This person has been
Well,
here
that's
for
the
27
Department of
years.
Labor statistics range, averages, the mean average for an administrative assistant. So, someone who's been there would be on the top of that range, maybe to the $40,000 or $50,000 range. And you also have to realize these are for public
There are
numbers.
state administrative assistants that make that money.
Okay. We're not in the state.
We're in a municipality. But look at somebody look at apples for apples, an administrative assistant that's been with the company or the municipality for 27 years, which incorporates any, raises or merit raises or anything like that through the years, that all adds up.
So that's what we're saying, is merit raises?
Well, it would be, yeah,
Over the years.
over the years.
Yeah.
What, if, say for instance, when this person does retire and the job summary,
It would be
what would be the starting salary?
probably a whole lot lower than that. We'd look at the wage and go back to LGC's book, look at the wage and start from the beginning. That's what we would probably do.
Kind of how we've done most of the jobs when one
Right.
leaves and you're replacing them.
We would do the same thing with town clerk, we'd do the same thing with town admin, we'd do the same thing with finance.
Right.
You've been here for a number of years, your salary's going to increase with the number of years that you've been here. So,
And that's why I do this research, just to try and learn, I'm new
Right.
to this year. Like, for instance, just trying to look at town administrator, that job title, and just, looking at different sites and the basic definition town administrator for a town that didn't have a mayor would usually be a part-time job. Usually, a lot of the duties would be through a selectman or select person. Just looking at some salary, apples to apples, I don't know if you could do an apples to apples, but,
if you
a
look
pretty
in
good sized mayor would be as an example, the mayor of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is at 90,000. We're a small town
I
at
think
almost
it's-
74.
You have
I
to
think it's
remember
where
the
you're looking.
administrator is the full-time person in town hall.
Is that what, is
Yeah,
that what
the
it is
selectmen
now?
meet on Thursday. I mean,
Right.
you'll see us
Okay.
in and out of town hall, but the administrator of the town is the business officer. They're here every day. Let me give you some salaries for town administrator.
Okay.
Let me get down to, I'm looking for.
And I was trying to find some examples, like what mayors
I
and
think
what...
if you look in that book,
Camden,
that would be very helpful.
there are not a lot of communities of our size that are comparable to us.
Mhm.
Because of exit 20 mostly. and the size of our budget, et cetera, et cetera. So you have 102, 253, administrative assistants, same town, Hudson, 91,614. This page goes from 65,000 for administrator assistant all the way up to 111,465 for Peterborough.
Administrative assistant or
That's
town
administrator.
administrator?
Administrator or?
That's administrator. Administrative assistant, 61,884, 65,770.
Can we all get a copy of that?
It's online at the local
I leave-
government center.
It's online at the local government
Okay.
center, but I leave this out there at the table, so you can
And
look at
the
it.
reason I asked that, and, you know, with Tim being the finance person, finance director, with the new IT position that was created for him at $14,000, he's now, with that and his salary as finance, gets him in the $70,000 range. And that's the thing that struck me, as that would be a third person in this building making $70,000 a year. It's just, that's why how do we justify it? How do we
Because he's
sell
doing
that to the
two
tax people?
separate jobs.
Yeah,
It's
but how
two
do we?
separate jobs. If we hired that job out to someone else, we wouldn't be paying $350 a week. We'd be paying a
Right,
little
but
lot
what,
more.
my question is, that's a third person making $70,000 a year. That's a top percentile for a small town.
But you have
One
to
of
look at
which,
what he makes as finance director, period, and compare it to what a finance director
Okay.
makes here. Look at IT in here, what they make. It's a lot more than the salary that we pay him.
And if we look at the numbers from the book, and I think that's part of what we need to really get copies of, though, I mean, they have business administrators, that is all set out by the local government center.
Yeah.
As what is being paid across the state, being broken down by the numbers
I remember
of
this.
population, because we had that discussion last time around. It's very interesting, because they're the setters of those rates, or they at least report those rates across the state of New Hampshire, and they are high.
Remember those rates I just read you were 3 years old.
Right.
yeah, and I'm new to town politics and politics in itself and how these work. And I'm a manager of a computer company, and my boss would love to make $70,000 a year, the general manager of this computer company in the state. So that's why it struck me as, you know, there's probably a very good reason why our administrative assistant makes $70,000, or, you know, a very good reason why our town administrator makes $73,800. I still haven't heard a good reason. Just because it's
The
in the
reason is
ballpark.
it's in line with towns of the same population and demographic.
And the finance director does not make $70,000. The finance director just makes 63, something like that, thousand.
Right.
We have an IT director that makes 18,200. And if you keep saying that the finance director makes 70,000, it's an incorrect statement, because anybody could take that job tomorrow, and you wouldn't be able, if I was the IT director, you couldn't say the finance director made $70,000. We don't pay $70,000 for a finance director.
Okay.
We don't pay it.
And someone couldn't take that job tomorrow. But I'm just asking for justification. All right, let's take the finance director out of it. I still don't see justification for it, but
I guess.
that's just my opinion. I was expecting to hear, well, they started at a different position, and then it changed to a new position after 25 years, and, you know, then merit raises kicked in, or, you know, something along those lines.
Do you want an explanation of what they do for, in
How
their
about,
daily duties?
we were talking about the breakdown of hours for
Most
Tim's
of them-
paycheck, or Tim's hours
It's
as
salary.
finance
It's a
director?
salaried position.
It's a salaried
Is-
position.
You're not gonna
is
get an hourly breakdown
administrative-
anywhere.
An administrative assistant works more than 40 hours a week. The town administrator, I can't begin to tell you how many hours that woman works.
Maybe closer to 60.
Maybe closer to 60.
Okay.
So, it's all in line with what the wage and salary book has said, this is what you get hired at. If there's a merit increase along the way for 2% or 2.5%, that increases it a little bit each year. Some years there's not, so that they don't get anything. There was a while, there was a couple of years in a row they didn't get anything. But when you've been here for, 27 years, you got to look back and say, when I started with the phone company, I made $47 a week. When I left the phone company, I was making $1,000 a week. So, over 30 years, I look back and say, thank God I was able to increase. So,
And I guess my justification is this went, for the finance director, 64,964 went before the town meeting and was accepted without any question last time around. And the only thing that's being added to it is the merit pool raise or the merit raise.
all of them have been, so.
They've all been...
The only one that has not been through the town meeting is the IT.
Right.
And that's a new position, and
So the
every one of them have been through,
So by their vote,
Right.
by their meetings, they certainly have felt that that was justified at that point in time for that salary. And certainly they're the ones that are the makers and the makers of the budget, the final say of the budget, the numbers.
Plus, the salaries are in line with what other towns are paying of the same population, and,
Well, it's not the same population.
or just
Same
Within-
responsibility.
The same type of town.
Same
You
type
have
of
to
town.
look at
and responsibility, right?
budget, size of the budget they deal with.
we certainly don't want people who are going to use the town of Tilton as a job jumping site either.
And you also have, too, the administrative assistant is also the assistant welfare director as well. So you're looking at actually two positions for her.
That's why I'm asking, things like of that nature.
Do we,
Like I said, I'm also learning.
Well, you have educational background to play a part.
do we have, if we were to go and hire somebody, we would pay them based on experience? Let's say if she retires, she's gone, or that person, whether any department, and we have a salary range that will pay them.
The beginning salary.
A beginning salary, or if they have a little more experience, we might pay them a little more, and all that, but we also have limits. Do any of our jobs that we hire people for say, okay, this job pays from this amount to that amount this time?
Putting a cap on it, you mean?
Putting a cap on, which is also can be changed as, things change, but
No, I
The
can't.
police department has step raises.
They have a cap on their steps, but that's
But they're not salaried.
contractual,
Town
but-
hall doesn't have step
No, they
raises.
don't have a cap. In essence, a cap penalizes a person for being the longevity that they've been in a job,
I
rather than
realize
not.
that, but I also realize that after working in the private sector for 35, 37 years, every job I've ever been has a cap in the private sector. If you are doing this job, and this is your job title, if you don't change your job title, once you hit the top, that's it. They adjust them a little bit every 5 years or so.
For example, an administrative assistant.
If
But I
you're
can't
at
go
the
over
cap, you get the cost of living.
On top of that, no. That's it, no raise. You have
As an
maxed out on
example,
your
an
salary.
administrative assistant who hit just using rounded numbers, hit the 50,000 range, and then, well, they're very good, and we're going to now make them executive assistant, and because they travel with the vice presidents, and, they go to board meetings, and they're now doing, well, now it becomes executive assistant, things of that nature, I think is what you're talking about.
No, we made her assistant welfare director without giving her an increase.
Are there any, here's another example, if, say for instance, she did retire, how many different jobs do you think it would have to break into
At least
to fill that?
Oh, I would say 3 maybe, because she's the one that does everything with our elderly, with all the abatements, the elderly exemptions. That's all been put on her as well, so she takes care of all of that.
That's what I was asking.
To be able to replace her,
Isn't that tax collector?
No,
No.
it's
Abatements on taxes?
not elderly and veterans exemption, disability, it's
Abatements are up to the
completely different.
selectmen.
It's, yeah.
Oh, because it's a town ordinance?
Is it also
No.
selectman's assistant in that it's not just town hall administrator, but
She does our-
research for you, or research for,
That's-
or research
that's
for,
right.
or
That's
research?
correct.
Absolutely.
We say
Kind of
this
justification
information,
I'm
she
asking
does
for,
everything.
not just for
Who's
me
here
to
every
learn,
Thursday night
but for
till
people
we're
on the
here.
camera who watch.
Right.
Where does that come from?
If we're here till 9 o'clock on Thursday night, she's here till 9 o'clock on Thursday night, and then she does the minutes the next
And if you were
day.
to put a cap on things, then that merit pool system would have to change.
That's right.
Or have to come out, because you
Right.
couldn't have a merit pool system for some of your employees and not for all your employees.
Right.
So that would mean that everyone have to be capped, and you'd have to live within that cap, which, and it's very interesting, because if we go back, if we compare this to like Winnebago Regional School District, which is a smaller community, their business administrator makes close to $100,000 a year.
And not necessarily the people that have been here for, 25 years, but that's when you start to lose, when you start to put caps on people, that's when you start to lose really good people, when they start getting close to that cap that you put on, they look for other places that don't have caps, and they go to other places, and so you lose really good employees, and you limit yourself to the environment, job environment that you create. We have some phenomenal employees.
That's right. And you have no idea, because everything...
Oh, I
always
understand.
runs smoothly.
We have probably the best and smoothest crew I've ever seen of any town around, getting stuff done, and I've dealt with that.
Right, that
Everything
takes
works well. I see people go way out of their way for accomplishing things, and it's just the dollar amount for the tax. How do you rationalize this to the taxpayers who are looking at, you just took money, I'm paying you $500, $600, $700 a month, and I can barely, the economy isn't that great yet. It hasn't rebounded, and just how do we rationalize this? We all have to be on the same page.
And that's the reason for this committee. I mean, we're not saying it to, stick it to you, stick it to
Well,
them,
that was
stick it to the
one of the first
person. I mean,
questions
that's
that I
why we're
had.
here.
That was one of the first questions I had as a selectman, I went through every single department and found, exactly the same questions you're asking right now. And, I rode with the highway department, I went to the police department, I sat and, watched what they did downstairs and how they worked, and I gotta tell you, I fill in some days that they're on vacation, or that they have a conference to go to, and boy, it's like, hello, selectmen, hello, and to get done the work that they get done and answer the phones, to me, it's overwhelming.
No, the
Question.
All right.
Sorry. Just to change subjects completely.
Thank
But
you.
staying on the subject of salaries, in the land use office, there'll be a change next year.
Yes.
Do you anticipate that affecting the budget in any way?
We just found out, and the selectmen are yet to talk about it as a group, so we haven't listened to all of what the selectmen have ideas, or if there will be any changes or anything, so
It's been, what, 5 years?
they'll probably, 5 years, yeah.
department came with that experience.
No, I know, I just didn't know.
Clerical.
Would there be changes, would they come in at a different level? Would there be changes to the department? We haven't even, we just found out last week, so we hadn't met after that. So we can't, I can't say.
The possibility could stay a status quo.
The possibility to stay as status quo is possibility to change, revamp the department. And, we don't know.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about it tomorrow. That's on the agenda. We are going to talk about it tomorrow. We can give you more information, update as we
I just knew it was on here, and I forgot that you guys haven't met yet, so that's my...
You're referring, everybody know what he's referring to?
No.
Gus is retiring.
Is retiring, and so she'll be leaving in February.
I was trying to not name names, so...
Well, it's...
Well, he's the only person in land use, so it's kind of hard not to.
I could have figured it out pretty quickly to verify what I thought. Now, the other thing is, our merit raises, what percentage are we basing that on?
2.5.
2.5. Now, if I look at somebody, and this has always been a problem that I've noticed in my own life, is when you're down at the bottom and you're getting 2.5, that could be maybe $400 a year, $500 a year. Somebody who's way up at the top, if they're getting 2.5, they're getting, they could be getting $2,000 a year. But the costs for living and going out and buying that gallon of milk or gasoline is the same for both of them. And it turns the thing where the people at the top of the line are moving up much quicker, and the people down here are staying stagnant. We're separating that. Is that how we give raises, just a percentage, or do we
Some
take it
don't even
into
get the 2.5%, John. It all depends on the department head, the recommendation coming from the department head. Not everyone got a 2.5%. Some got a percent, some got a 1.5%.
You're talking a difference between cost of living and merit, too.
We don't get cost of.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. When you're talking about going out and buying a quart of milk, that would be a cost of living. When you're talking about somebody's job performance, that's a merit. So there's a big distinction, I think, there.
I hear what you're saying, and it's an issue, and also you see it in the PD as well, the variation of the low and then the high. You can see it in the salaries, and I don't know how you could adjust that, because you have people that come in and there's an influx. I mean, you have a deputy town clerk, tax collector that's, 2 years, 3 years? That's only 3 years that's been here, and then you have somebody on the high end that's been here for 27 years or 15 years. And do you set a merit up, to max out at 4% and perhaps, give the bottom ones a little bit more and the top ones a little bit less? We could do that, but
That's not what merit is.
would it be, fair and equitable? I don't think it would be. They're doing, if they're doing their job and they're doing it to the best of their ability and doing it well, merit constitutes just that. And
Constitutes doing
so
over.
if the person that's been here for 3 years works just as hard as the person that's been here for 15 years, I don't know where you could draw that line.
It's in a percentage amount, when you get the same dollar amount per hour.
Well, why would you penalize somebody?
I don't want to
Doing it at a
micromanage how you guys give out
that would-
raises, but it's,
That would correct it if you,
But what is
instead
there
of
to
doing a
correct?
percent.
This is kind of irritating. You have somebody, let's say, that's worked here for 28 years. That's a hell of a lot of education. Now, would you take somebody who's gone through the education process, gotten a PhD, is working in their field, and say, okay, the janitor is getting a 2.5% merit raise, and you're going to get a 2.5% merit raise. But you know what? Even though you've paid your dues, you've gone through college, you've gotten your PhD, we recognize you've got this education, and you're up here in this high-paying job because of your skill level, we're gonna penalize you
Well,
because the janitor
Makes less
who
money.
doesn't have that skill level is gonna be getting less of a cost of living through his merit raise? It doesn't make sense.
Well, I
It's a
don't-
merit raise, and you reward people according to the job they're due and the skill level they have.
You hire them at the skill level they have, and they're hired at different levels.
I mean,
So,
trust me, if
I
we
mean,
have someone that's been here for umpteen years, is making a lot of money, and they're not doing their job, they're not gonna get a 2.5% merit raise.
And the
the
only
merit
thing,
is for doing better,
Merit is
or
for
just performing the job?
Better.
performance.
One thing Pat said earlier, I don't know if you caught what she said, but the merit raise, like say it's 2%, 2.5% this year, that's a max. So some people might get a 0.5%, people might get a
That's right.
1.2, some people might get zero.
The door has been locked down there. We're going to go out and shut the door in the back.
Okay.
Okay.
All right?
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
And I know you've done that in the past, there's been people who've gotten raised, some don't, and that's up to you. It seems like the higher wage people are exponentially getting further and further out.
and with a merit raise, that's exactly the issue. The issue is, the only thing you can control is the standard, what the person can meet for the standard for the merit. The school system just put that merit system in, they run from 0 to 5% in their system. And you have everyone from the superintendent to the secretary participating in that merit pool. So the secretary, even if she gets a 5% or he gets 5%, that's only going to be 5% of probably $30,000, where the superintendent gets 5% of $160,000. So yes, there's inequality built into it, but that's part of that system. You can choose, and it's one of the systems that you have to choose as an administrator on how you reward your employees.
State of New Hampshire has 12,000 employees. They just gave everybody across the board cost of living raise.
Yeah, that's a union, the union employees.
How much was the cost of living raise?
All over the next 2.5 years, it's 6.1 or 6.25%.
I have another question. Was the town clerk, tax collector, is that her official title? I remember there was an issue with her salary with the merit raise and not being done a certain way.
The town clerk tax collector, we found out, needs to be a budget item, a wage item, and not a merit, because the people at town meeting vote her salary. So we were in error putting her in the merit raise pool over the past years that we've done it.
Well, she's a town voted position, right?
But she's elected.
Yeah, she's elected.
Elected, and it's the town clerk that's the one that's different. So this year, you'll see that there's a 2.5% in the salary for town clerk, tax collector. The deputy is in the merit raise pool.
She's no longer in the merit raise.
She's not elected,
Okay.
she's appointed.
So that's in the budget, the 2.5?
Yes, yep.
It doesn't have to be a warrant article or anything to
No.
raise it, or?
No, it's in the
like-
salary, it's her salary. If they approve it, it's approved. If
But
they-
someone could go and change that one individual line item.
Exactly.
On
So
the
that would be a
floor.
line item.
Okay.
Right.
Could you address the new line item, Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid?
Yes, we were being billed in Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid through the county. The county actually paid our bill, and we would pay it. So it actually was a reduction of $4,000 in doing it that way. 11 towns out of the county decided that they no longer wanted to be billed through the county. I think they had a little help with the county as well, but they pulled out of the billing system, so we're now being billed direct by Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid, and so that bill went up to 33,000 instead of 27 something. Do you have the?
33,807.
33,807 now.
Well, it was, right. It was
And what
30.
was it?
It was 31 something, and then there was an error, and there was like $1,500 after that put on. So now it was 33, what you have there.
That's the total.
That's the total.
Right.
Now, there are plans for the fire district to fight us on Lakes Region Mutual Aid, even though we're a separate entity, a member of Lakes Region Mutual Aid. They have intentions to fight us and try to get Lakes Region Mutual Aid direct bill to the fire district. If that happens, then it goes to the district, and then we pay 64% or 63% of the bill, which would be a much higher.
64% of what, Bill?
Well, if you combine Northfield and you combine Tilton's
Oh, I
Lakes
see what you're
Region
saying,
Mutual
so-
Aid, it's about 65,000. So if you take 63% of 65,000, we get the heftier chunk, which will raise our bill up from another about 14,000.
Right.
So we went up 4,000, losing the direct billing from the county, and we'll go up another 10,000 if we combine that.
What
But in
formula-
order for them to do that, they have to go to town meeting, then both towns have to agree on it in town meeting, then both towns have to agree on it at the annual fire meeting too.
That's at the district meeting, fire district meeting that they, what formula are they using? The same one that they use?
The same
Same
one,
one.
the same, Lakes Region Mutual Aid, same one.
You say 11 towns decided to drop out?
11 towns sent letters to them.
Who made the decision for those towns to drop out?
They didn't drop out.
Each one had, we did not drop out, they wanted to not be billed by the county.
Who made that decision, though?
Bill. Each member or each town has a representative. They
Who was our
appoint-
representative?
Our representative was Brad Ober. He was our representative for the town of Tilton, not the district, the town of Tilton. The town of Northfield was Steve Bloom. So everyone had a representative. Now our representative, we chose and voted Tim Joubert as our representative of Lakes Region Mutual Aid.
How's that work where they're in a different county?
Tim's not,
No, Northfield, how's that work with the,
Because there's 5 counties in the Lakes Region.
Mutual Aid, it's
Okay.
5 counties, so they get direct
well,
bill.
because when you said being billed by the county, they're in Merrimack County, we're in,
Well, they
No,
get
that's
direct
good.
billed, and that was a source of contention because they were at a higher rate because they were being direct billed and we were not being direct billed, we were being billed but through the county, which we were at about a $4,000 reduction.
But I could just add to answer Jane's question, the reason this all came about is because you had the Belknap County Commissioners and the Belknap County Legislative Delegation, that all they were was just a bill-paying service. There was a line item in the county budget for this other organization. So if people had any complaints or concerns or kudos to give, they'd come to the commissioners, they'd say, we have no control. It's a separate organization made up of all these member towns over 5 counties. And then in Belknap County, because Belknap County towns were unique in that they had the county commissioners bill the county's towns through the tax. There were 3 communities that obviously are your wealthy communities that didn't want to be billed that way anymore. They felt that they were picking up the slack for the other towns because they had wealthy assessments. The formula for Lakes Region Fire Mutual Aid is it's a certain percentage on fixed costs, a certain percentage based on assessed value, and a certain percentage on population, correct? On population.
Evaluation, assessment and
Population and fixed costs. So they total up they have their budget, and they divide it into that number, and then they send out the bills to all the member towns, but for the Belknap towns, they send them to Belknap County. Now, every member town is getting their own bill.
Some went up $18,000, some went down $25,000.
So that's why it all happened.
Yeah,
What did ours do?
ours went up 4,000.
Went up.
Could possibly go up more.
We will fight it.
Thank you.
It's going to come up again, that's why I just wanted to give you the background.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah, it will come up again.
And again,
Very important.
It's gonna be a big one. It's gonna be like the school.
By the way, the county's coming in to share their budget tomorrow at 3:30. If any from the budget want to come in and hear it, you're welcome. John, the chair's coming in.
Do you have that, you tape that, or?
We tape it.
These warrant articles, these are all pending on the last page,
Those are last year's?
Those are last year's.
the last year's.
Yeah.
So does it look like to you, it looks like to me, confirm if I'm wrong, but our budget is actually going to be, some things are still not decided, and there's some details going to be at or even possibly lower than last year?
The operating budget.
The operating budget, yes. But that's not including in on your warrant articles.
Right, and, contract, and that's what I'm saying.
And you have,
Healthcare, that's still up.
the healthcare's open enrollment is till the 15th of December.
And police contract with a different.
Right, and then you have money articles and you have petition articles, so we have control over those.
Right.
Any big ones in the works, do you know, or any in the works?
Not heard any. I've
You
not
have a big
heard
one
any.
for refurbishing up here?
We would love to refurbish in the back here to make it into an office in the back there, because it's just stage area. Because there's a lot of times that the selectmen meet, and if we're going to non-public, Johanna's office is right there. We either have to ask her to leave, which is not fair to her, or if she's out, it's okay, or we have to go downstairs and to Joyce's office for a brief non-public. So if we had a wall there, we could just meet up there and have a place. It would be an extra meeting room. There's no place in Town Hall to have a non-public, if Catherine's over here at Health Officer, which is, in any event, if she wasn't, there's no place for a non-public. Downstairs, it's wide open, next to the planning office. So, it's this particular year, because we've had a lot of non-publics and a lot of illegal issues, it's been difficult at times to schedule, and, sometimes we schedule, and then we forget to ask Johanna, and it's not been pretty, but...
any thought been given to air conditioning this area of the building?
It's extremely expensive. Our last quote,
I know that, but I'm saying any thought been given to it?
we'd love to.
I have an estimate.
We have an estimate, but it's very costly.
Just for the equipment, and then, yeah.
We make do with the windows in the pan.
And our shower curtain.
Part of the big expense is that
Very nice
we
show,
have to put in a whole new
It's a big shower.
electrical panel. And we'd have to move that bigger electrical panel and move it to some other place, because right now it's down in the boiler room. And it needs to be on the outside of the building.
And you got, the main unit has to be located somewhere and structurally strong for that.
Has there ever been
Every
any,
meter, they have to shovel up.
No, is there to create offices, like up there, wouldn't we have to sprinkle the building too?
I just was gonna ask.
Because none of this building is sprinkled, which is probably covered the way it is, but once you start changing the rooms,
You're bringing up
dishing
current.
them out, then at that point, you're going to definitely have to install sprinklers because of the new thing, so you'd have to sprinkle the whole building, top to bottom.
I thought we asked that to Brad,
Yeah, we don't have to sprinkle.
That's never come up.
I double check, I believe that's a state law that it has to be done.
Double check it.
Yeah. I mean, even staircases, closets, every closet, what size, it's like,
Over a certain cubic feet, it's a compartment, have to be
which is
sprinkled.
like 2 by 4.
Elevator shaft.
Right, but we're not creating space, we're just partitioning it.
That's what triggers it, though.
That's what triggers the space.
Right.
Changing of walls, relocating of walls, triggers.
couple of,
And even in, I think, residential,
Places of assembly.
yep, and I think it's residential rental spaces, you now have to sprinkle completely,
In new
100%, in new buildings. Or if you change use.
And places that have live entertainment too.
So,
Live entertainment, Sandy.
This could be
to install,
really considered
to
entertainment.
install an office up here might be one
Have
price,
live
but it could be,
entertainment.
I would say to do this building's probably $600,000-$700,000.
For sprinkler?
No?
No.
Mr. Chairman, since it's 9 o'clock and it's nice to get Johanna home once in a very while before 10 o'clock, if we're all done with the number issues and Tim's coming in next week, I believe, to assist us with numbers and financing, I would, at this point in time, request that we adjourn for the evening if there's no outstanding business.
I have one question.
Okay?
It's under cultural and recreation. I see that the senior center budget has been reduced. I'd like an explanation. None of the other cultural and recreations have, and I believe the senior center has,
No, that hasn't, Jane, the rest of it is in IT,
okay,
right, it stayed the same,
all right.
and that's what, right, so that's still the security, telephone.
Okay,
main
that's fine then,
security,
if that's, all right.
Stayed the same.
And if we can make a list of any questions for Tim, get them to him ahead of time before he shows up, so that he can,
They're gonna be next Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yes. So,
They're gonna be next Wednesday?
next Wednesday, and then we'll be breaking, so, and next Wednesday, we can try and finish, there's a few things we need left to vote on,
We're gonna vote on
Get that
next
done.
Wednesday.
on, probably Mike-
Red Cross,
Red Cross,
Genesis,
Genesis, the...
Winnie Transit.
Winnie,
Winnie Transit.
yep.
Winnie Transit. Did everybody get the email from
Yep.
Winnie Transit? Because you said you didn't.
I didn't check on,
okay.
You came late.
I might have done.
Came at like 6 o'clock or something, didn't it?
Mine was there earlier, because
You
I
should,
called,
Go
but
back through, I've been
I-
crazy busy.
Johanna sent it, and if you didn't get it, let us know, because they did do a breakdown. It was quite different from the figures that they actually gave us during the meeting.
Cost per person and all that.
yeah.
Yep, and it's all public information, which was also nice to find. So, again, based upon that, if there's nothing else, I reinforce my motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
He forgot to give us a raise.
I think we should give the budget committee a raise. What do you think?
Doing this since, none of the
You're still young, come on.
appointed or voted in has changed in how many years? 20 years?